there's like a gyroscope inside the Steam controller, so it can detect acceleration, which means it can tell when it's been dropped or thrown. And when it does the Wilhelm scream.
Not every time, but like
drop controller literally goes,
"Ow!" Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 573 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the weekly podcast for indie game developers. I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, the miscellaneous programmer.
I'm Sam, and I'm their taste.
And we are Butterscotch Shenanigans. Today is May 15th, 2020 quick. Today we're going to have kind of a grab bag episode. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. We'll be talking about Subnautica 2 and their crazy sales. We're talking about the screaming Steam controller. We'll talk about promo art and maybe a little bit of trademark conversation.
Yeah, nice little stroll around.
We're just
a lot of grab a bag.
Yeah, it's funny because we're coming in on this phase of Dev for How Many Dudes where we're approaching launch. So we've got tons of polish, tons of VFX, tons of bug fixes, tons of optimizations, tons of UI reworks. But we're doing like 1,000 things. So then when it comes to the podcast, we're like, what should we talk about this week? But there's not like one big thing to talk about now, where it's just like a lot of
pile
small
of
things.
Yeah.
But I think the promo art and the trademark stuff is definitely kind of top of mind, so we'll talk about that. Subnautica 2.
Yeah.
So it launched yesterday as of this recording, and it sold 2 million copies.
Yeah, it sold 1 million in the first 5 hours, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I assume that makes it the fastest selling PC game. I assume, but
It's up there. If not, that's
all
the way up there.
That's crazy.
It's just wild numbers. We've been seeing this recently with some of those big, like Slay the Spire did the same thing, right? Where it's like the first one did really well. Everyone knows it did really well. And it's interesting because it's been out for so long that you kind of forget like how large that total audience would be then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's also...
And having them arrive on day one suddenly for the sequel is like, wow.
Yeah, because both those games, right? Because Slay the Spire and OG Subnautica, like, yeah, they had good... Actually, Slay the Spire didn't have a good launch, actually. But both of those games, though, their popularity, like, didn't go away, right?
Yeah.
They kept... So they've accumulated over whatever it's been for each of them, a decade or whatever. They've just accumulated
Some
such a
astronomical
huge
number of players,
audience.
right?
And because both of those games are not only games that, like, people truly, liked, right? But also lots of people's, like, favorite games, right? Like, Subnautica, just still one of my favorite games of all time, right?
Yeah, it's great.
So it wouldn't matter how long it took for a Subnautica 2 to come out. It would be
Show up.
I'm going to show up. I'm going to be there.
Well, and this was our theory when we started the studio and we started working on Butterscotch ID, which later became Rumpus. It was this idea of like rolling success forward. But I think we were thinking about it from a studio level, thinking like, oh, if we have a game that gets 50,000 players, and then the next game, like, we can roll those players forward. Turns out you can't really. Like, if the games are not part of the same franchise,
or at least like genre-wise are basically the same. I feel like
somehow
you do see,
adjacent.
yeah, you see success in this regard, like with like what Supergiant did. That was part of it was like we were looking at what they did, where they're like, oh yeah, they make a new game each time. I think we failed to realize, which in hindsight is pretty obvious, that like they were making variations of the same underlying genre game, right? These action
top-down
like
action
RPGs,
RPG kind of things. Yeah.
There's a lot of
and that's
stuff
actually what allows the audience to move,
Yeah.
as opposed to being like, it's just a randomly new game. Like,
and there are like sort of pseudo exceptions to that, right? Like Blizzard, at least historically, right? Where, because to me, like Blizzard launching Overwatch was that fun thing of like,
it's true, yeah,
absolutely unrelated to anything that they're doing, different kind of game, different everything, right? And people showed up at launch because they were like, well, it's a Blizzard game. This is something I would normally play, but I would want to try it out. And that was, like you're saying, that was the long-term goal we had, was the idea of like, oh, we want to make a studio where people are just like, hey, it's a Butterscotch game, I should get it.
We want to do that.
Yeah. But
I think because Blizzard
never happens.
Blizzard established their sort of cultural dominance in the early 2000s, right? Because that was like the Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, Diablo 2, World of Warcraft.
Well, and I think actually that point is important, right? Is like they did that early and already across a variety of genres, right? So they built that was built for the beginning.
And honestly, like nowadays, that's gone for them, right? Because like they've used up all their goodwill, and so now like Warcraft Rumble comes out, and I'm like, I'm not.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, Diablo Immortal comes out and it costs $150,000 to max out your character. I'm like, yeah, I'm not touching any new thing that they make, you know, because the soul is gone, right? So it's like you can. I think there was a time in the industry where that was probably easier to do, where like there just weren't that many studios, there weren't that many games, and so building up a studio reputation where people would just buy whatever your studio made. Granted, still almost nobody achieved it, but nowadays I think it's probably even tougher to do.
Not a good move.
You know?
Not a good thing to try, I think, you know, these days.
Yeah. So naturally, you know, our next game, How Many Dudes, is nothing like any of our previous games.
We've learned nothing. That's the trick.
Well, we did because Crashlands 2, we then tried to do that. We were like, okay, let's try to do the thing where you do a franchise deal, right? And then actually, I mean, that worked as far as those things go. Like
you saw the same effect, right? It's like the audience shows up on day one. I mean, the Crashlands 2 peak was way above the Crashlands 1's launch peak and stuff. So you see it, but of course we're operating still at just such a smaller scale.
And if you can only like take advantage of that every 5 years because the scale of the project needed to continue the IP. 'Cause I think if you think about this with like a Fallout game, right? It's like I loved Fallout 3, loved Fallout New Vegas. Mixed bag after that. But the sheer scale of game that has to be made for them to release a new game in that series for me to decide if I like it or not, you know, is so much work. And we were in that same trap with Crash.
Is that like, yeah, I feel like that might be a wrong assumption though, just because like if a new Fallout game came out that was the same scope as Fallout 3, but just like more refined, different story, blah, 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 that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying the scope needs to be bigger. I'm just saying the baseline scope is already huge.
Even if you have to make it again, that's a big fucking game.
It's just a big game. And in the same way that, like, even if we had just made basically like Crashlands 1 again, more or less, rather than, you know, growing the scope.
Still would have taken like 2 years.
It still would have taken, still would have taken so long, you know? And I think that's the thing. That's another part of it, is if you find yourself in a franchise where you're like, ooh, here is the thing that I could bring players back to. But making that thing is extremely expensive and also, to some extent, soul crushing, you know, then.
Yeah.
Rough.
Well, and you got the challenge of like, because players now kind of expect everything to be constantly updated now, that you can also fall into like the, you know, like the Terraria trap, right? Where like you just keep updating the same game for 10 years and then you literally can't make a sequel because how could that possibly?
It's so big.
But if you have a hit of that scale, it's one of those like, I would take that.
It's fine.
problem.
It's fine. You don't need to make a sequel, you know? Yeah, I was cracking up though because we've had some people that come into our studio Discord, you know, asking about the game and stuff like that because they're getting hyped for the launch. But in many cases, people have just only heard like that it's coming out in the summer, right? And they didn't look into anything else. And so, we have somebody come in and they'll be like, "Oh, what's in the full game?" And we'll be like, "Oh yeah, like here's a link to the announcement, but just, you know, TLDR, like 42 dudes. We got new difficulties, new boss fights, and blah, blah, blah." And then this has happened a bunch of times where as soon as we answer that question, where we tell them like all the new stuff that's coming, their immediate follow question is, will there be even more stuff though? Like after launch, will you be adding more stuff on top of the stuff I haven't seen yet?
And they did this for Crashlands too. Also, they were before the game came out.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, they were like, "Are there going to be DLCs? Are there going to be?" We're like, "Just can we get the game out?
Just play what's there first, and then we'll talk about, you know." It's like the person getting their salt shaker ready before the food even shows up. It's like, just try it first.
You know what I mean? It's a joke, but also at the same time, it's like, you know, when you ask a question about like a new series that's on Netflix or whatever else people are talking about, you're like, "Well, how many seasons of it are out though already?"
Yeah.
You know, the first time I'm hearing about it.
But asking how many seasons there are is different from asking if there are going to be more seasons made. You know what I mean?
I think it's still also, that's a usual question. Like, you feel like if you watch if the first episode of a good show, you see this in the same online discourse. I think it's just like when people like a thing, they're like, I don't know, there's some assurance. I want some assurance.
I think it's different from that though, because with games, it's like, because what you get with a game is, in general, you're getting some kind of a fully complete experience, right? That then people are like, I want more of that experience, but there is like a complete experience there, right? But like a TV show, most TV shows aren't designed to have like at the end of the season, we did it, like we finished the thing.
You leave some,
and for like Netflix in particular, who loves pulling the plug on shows 1 or 2 seasons in, then yeah, like it's one of those like if I'm going to get invested in the story and I want it to feel like it does have an end,
right? That's fair.
Are you going to leave me in lurch? You know, it's a
my
different.
point is simply that like no matter what the media form is, I think once people consume a thing that they like, just while they are enjoying it.
Yeah, it's the right interpretation.
How long do I get to enjoy this for?
Yeah, it's a blessing to be on the side of that where people are asking you that.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious though because like when did I start my new How Many Dudes save? Was it 4 weeks ago or
yeah, I think it was
4 or 5 weeks ago.
End of March or early April.
It's been at least a month, and I've been playing a lot of How Many Dudes, and I still haven't 100%ed all 3 tiers of difficulty, and I haven't even put a dent in the achievements. Like, like.
But are you having a good time the whole time?
Oh yeah, I'm having a blast.
I think that's what it is,
but the idea that like
that there needs to be
that
more.
There
already.
needs to be more. I'm like, I think there's too much. Actually, I think there might be too much in this game.
We may have already overcooked. Do we need to keep it in the oven?
Yeah, and of course, but it's the type of game that does kind of like it like tickles the imagination just because each dude is a pretty self-contained. It's like it's like the dude, and then he's got his 7 relics. And
you could see it. You could expand it.
Yeah,
well, but also it's also because of what the simplicity of the concept, which is like there are kinds of dudes. Anybody can imagine a new kind of dude.
Yeah,
and there are creatures that are mostly animals. It's like I can imagine another kind of animal versus something like a Crashlands 2, where it's like if somebody has an idea for what they want to see like added to Crashlands 2, they got to first occupy the universe of Crashlands.
It's pretty wacky.
Yeah,
but here's just like, hey,
come up with
my job is this. I want to see my job in this game, Or hey, I have a pet lizard. Can we put lizards in here? Like it's very,
yeah.
Well, I do want to say it's interesting seeing Subnautica 2 pop off so hard, right? And I think alongside that, it's been interesting because we saw Everything's Crab. It's a little smaller scale, not Subnautica 2, but this is
but also a aquatic animal themed game.
It's
They're basically the same game.
And they. Their playtests and demos and stuff like that were happening kind of at the same time as like the How Many Dudes one in December. And so we saw like basically the channels that we were getting onto always also had an Everything's Crab video. I played the demo, loved the shit out of it. Already bought the game myself. It launched and they've been doing incredible numbers. They've been doing great. You look at their Steam concurrence, it's like I think they hit like a peak of 20,000 or something like that. Which is
they've got
great. So
they launched on May 8th.
I'm so pleased for them. I hope they're doing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they launched a week ago and have 1,300
they hit, like
very positive reviews on Steam. So that's a very solid launch.
Crazy good. And the game is so fun. So big congrats to that team as well. Because that's a huge one. That's great.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Steam controller a little bit. So Steam controller came out. It's $99.
It's sold out.
I don't know if we even talked about it on the
I don't think so.
podcast. The basic gist of the reviews is something along the lines of like, it's a good controller. $99 is a lot though. So like, if you're not really looking to take advantage of all the stuff that it's doing, then it's not really much of a reason to spend that much on a controller.
You don't need it. So
yeah, except it turns out you might need it because there was a hidden feature that people just recently discovered, which is that if there's like a gyroscope inside the Steam controller, so it can detect acceleration, which means it can tell when it's been dropped or thrown. And when it does the Wilhelm scream.
Not every time, but like
drop the controller, then it goes,
yeah. And they didn't tell anybody about this. I was thinking about the conversation at Valve and like how this came about, because it had to be something like, what if we make the controller scream when somebody throws it? And just don't tell anybody about it.
But I wonder, even within Valve, how many people even knew? Because this could just be one person who was like put an Easter egg in. You know what I mean?
It might have been stuck in. Because also, as far as I understand, the controller doesn't have a speaker. It has haptic vibrations, and they somehow like use that to play the Wilhelm scream.
It doesn't have a speaker,
which is even.
That's complicated. I don't even know how that. I mean, technically sound is vibration. So
that's what I was reading. I'll need to double verify that. But yeah. But then it's like I'm trying to imagine somebody, because there's a lot of raging gamers out there who for some reason like to throw their equipment when they get upset. I'm trying to imagine like somebody playing a game, with their new Steam controller. They get frustrated. They throw it. It screams, and now it's broken, right?
Yep.
And then they can't replicate it because it broke, but also it screamed. And so then they're going to their friend, and they're like, "Bro,
I swear,
I swear, I threw that controller, and it screamed when I threw it." And they're like, "Well, can you do it again?" I'm like, "Well, no, it's broken."
But I think it's interesting about this is that it's like we talk about this a lot actually in game design, which is that you need to be careful what you at all sort of reward for players. Right?
This was a mistake, actually,
just like in Link.
People are gonna break their Steam.
Yeah, it's like people are you could just be dropping them. People are gonna drop the controllers more because it's fun.
I mean, fortunately, you can even like drop it onto like a bed or a pillow, and it'll. But at the same time, like you are still dropping the controller. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not meant to.
Yeah. Do you want to incentivize that with the hardware? I don't know.
It's because when you're operating at that scale too, right? Because there won't be very many people who break their controllers as a consequence, but there will be people who do it.
There will be thousands. You know.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's.
Remember that iPhone game that literally just was tossed?
How high can you throw your phone? Yeah.
The thing about that stuff like that at some point.
They banned it, yeah, because it was shattering devices all the time, basically, right? They were like, "This is funny, but you're actually destroying hardware a lot."
What's even funnier about it is if you actually know anything about the tech inside the iPhone, you know that it actually doesn't know how high it's being thrown. It doesn't have a fucking altimeter in it, right? Like,
no, but it has an accelerometer.
Yeah, it can tell. It can tell how hard you threw it,
or how quickly you.
But like once it's falling, it's just under the force of gravity, right? So like it is falling at a continuous acceleration. So the accelerometer will not be like, "Ooh, I'm now going." It's not a speedometer; it's an accelerometer. So it won't be like I'm falling at 23 miles per hour. Like it doesn't know that, right?
I see.
So all it can measure is just like
how hard it was thrown.
How hard it was thrown.
Right.
Yeah. But
it's hilarious.
It was also like back with the Wii. When people like realize that the controllers aren't actually like doing what it looks like they're doing, so that you don't have to do a full dramatic swing as if you're hitting a tennis ball, you can just like kind of flick it and stuff. And
I got really good at Wii tennis with just like wrist flicks. You just do the wrist movements. It takes the magic away a little bit when you actually understand it, but that's fine. All right, let's talk about promo art.
Yeah.
So, how many dudes promo art? What's the scoop, Sam? What happened?
Yeah. So, well, I just kind of to back it up, we have the store page up for how many dudes literally a week after we made the Jam game, I think. So since like early August, basically. And in order to do that, you got to put all the pieces in there, right? You can't put a Steam page up without at least some screenshots and some promo art. So, we had, I think at the time, it was just like maybe a screenshot or something for the promo art.
It was the name, how many dudes, and then we had a dude punching a toddler. Just
oh yes, okay. So so it was just taking some sprites from the game, just composing and putting them together. So from there, then before the demo launch, then I took like a day and a half or something, put together a new idea for it, which was this just screaming gorilla, the one they're basing on Steam. Covered in dudes. And the thing is, like, that's not like doing that kind of multiple things interacting and building like a whole illustration is not actually something that I do almost any of, because all I do is like game assets. Yeah. And so, I was like, it was hard for me, even though it's kind of silly because it's like a single gorilla covered in dudes, right? Not particularly complicated, but it was like basically trying to do.
It is though. I mean,
it's complicated from a drawing perspective, but in terms of like what you want from capsule art, to me, it was another level up from where it was previously. Better, but not where I would want necessarily like a launch thing to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, because a big part of it is, this is like capsule art on Steam or that you see with your big features on iTunes or whatever else, that's like how people first experience the game. It needs to communicate so much stuff about like what the vibe, about the genre, all those things. And so you want to nail it, because otherwise it feels like you're leaving attention on the table, right? If every time Steam shows the game to people and uses your box art, that's what's being shown. If you don't do it well, then you're like, you're really missing out, on a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Also, just for clarity, we always call it box art because from back in the days when you had games with boxes, this was the art that would go on the box. Nowadays, people call it key art or promo art or capsule art. Yeah, but it's all the same. It's all the same thing.
All the same stuff. And so then finally, as we've been now approaching the launch window, this has been one of those things that we saw a bunch of interesting things from the fact that the game took off on YouTube, right? And one of them was just the fact that from a thumbnailing perspective, the YouTube thumbnails that we saw in these channels that did really, really well all had the same thing in common. Always had the same thing in common, which is basically a gorilla or like a single, very easily identifiable animal, like a unicorn, whatever, sort of like just visually surrounded by dudes, right? And in this case, too, they're still using assets from the game, right? So we thought, okay, let's try.
A lot of it was AI generated, like proxies.
Oh, there was a lot of AI
proxies,
yeah.
So we thought, okay, let's sort of take that, what clearly works. Then you can literally see, you're looking at between videos on the same channel that launched with one thumbnail like that versus one that wasn't. You can see a big difference in terms of how effective they are. So okay, let's take the base idea of that, kind of merged with what we have conceptually with the capsule art already, that one I had done, and like see if we can push it up into more of a, polished promo and feature ready sort of a thing. And so we had Anne, our wonderful artist who's been doing the relic art for the game. I tasked her with it. Just did a couple back and forths. And the first couple ones, it was interesting because it was like sort of like gorilla oriented, more it was like the gorilla's the center of things, and then like the dudes are kind of around or.
When they were all like cool action.
Yeah, they were all epic as fuck.
They were very epic, and it also, in some cases, it kind of seemed like the Doom poster, right? Where it's like, like this heroic, like this gorilla is like making a heroic stand against the dudes. But yeah, we were like, that's too serious.
Too serious. Yeah, let's go.
Too cool. And
too cool.
Yeah, let's go kind of more slapsticky cartoon, just nonsense.
Yeah, how many dudes is dumb? Right?
It's a dumb game, and the box art should also be super dumb.
Yeah, and Anne was like, "Got it." And then the next one she delivered, we were just like, "Yes." And it basically was a sketch version of this current one, which is just I don't know, it's just so good. It's so fun. So if you haven't seen that yet, if you go to Steam, you could check it out, or the Discord, kind of anywhere where there's how many dude stuff going on. But it's just this absolute.
Honestly, we'll probably put it as the thumbnail for this video.
Oh. Yeah,
so you'll see it.
Try that. But yeah, it's just an absolute brawl, and like if everywhere you look, there's just some nonsense. There's a dude like getting just punched in the nuts by a toddler. There's a duck strangling a man, and a man strangling the same duck.
Yeah, they're strangling each other.
It's just
I like that she kept, because in the original box art, we specifically made a point to have one of the dudes be twisting the gorilla's nipple.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah.
And Anne kept that. There's one dude, he's like reaching way over.
Yep.
Twisting.
So yeah, it really is just it took that idea, sort of merged it with the thumbnails, and just like way better than I honestly could have imagined. So it's a big thanks to her for that. It's really, really good, and we got it propagated everywhere now. It's on Steam and all that other stuff. So the big question remains, which is like, how much quote unquote better is it, right?
Yep.
And this is kind of one of those very annoying things, which is that unless you have your store pages up on mobile, who have built-in A/B testing for like parts of the store where you can swap out the icon, you can swap out the feature graphic, that sort of thing. You can't actually know. Steam has no A/B testing capabilities. Again, despite the fact they take 30% of your money.
And the point of A/B testing, for everyone who's not familiar with it, is to have at the exact same time a collection of variants that you want to see how they perform relative to each other, and those are then served randomly to people at the same moment, right? So when I go to the store right now, when Sam goes to the store right now, there's a whatever percent chance that one of us sees one version and somebody else sees the other one. By doing it that way,
at the same spot in the store.
Same spot in the store, yeah. So by doing it that way, you get to eliminate all other explanations for whatever outcomes you see, because it's happening at the same time. In systems like Steam that don't have A/B testing, all you can do is just change it. You can just change it, and it's different now. And then you like wait a while, and then you look at that period versus the period before, and try to rule out any other explanations. Yeah. Because
you're like, depending on how someone came and saw this, it's going to completely change. I mean, our click-through rate for How Many Dudes was over 100% for basically months, while all those external videos were coming in. It's like click-through rate.
Yeah.
The global
So what do
click-through
you
rate is not a
compare it
usable
to?
thing already.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to dig in like all this nonsense. And then you're still looking at like sometimes the ones where it'd be like the cleanest or like small numbers. You know, it'd be like, oh yeah, you're looking at like the tag page, for example, like games that are tagged like this game.
I have to
Maybe
wonder,
your click-through rate went up, but it's like if it went up by a little bit, is that a lot or noise? It's just kind of whatever. So.
Well, there's something weird about A/B testing though, because like it takes the kind of like the artistry out of it, and it turns it into science in a lot of cases. And something by that I just mean like you're not saying like here's what I want to communicate. It's just like what gets clicks, right? And just keep like swapping things out until you get the thing that gets the clicks. And then you end up in some cases with sort of a convergence, right? Where like there's always jokes about how like, oh, you're making a mobile game, like make sure that the icon is a man screaming looking to the right and slightly upward, because like it turns out that has like a 2% higher click rate than some other format. And so every game converges on the same icon.
It's also like YouTube thumbnails, right? All have there's a similarity to the ones that are successful,
and then there's that question of like, well, if A/B testing tends to result in the same type of format, then it becomes a self-defeating loop, because at a certain point, then every game looks the same, and then no game stands out, and your icons perform worse, and then you got to do it again. I've heard this analogy of like, what does a chameleon do when it's looking at itself in the mirror? Because chameleons change color to match what they're looking at. But so when they look in a mirror, they change color, but now like the mirror has changed, and so then they try to change as that's changing, and they end up just doing this weird thing where they just start cycling through all kinds of random colors.
I think the reality though is like the trends are present already on something like Steam, right? In terms of how the slugs are shit, like all this stuff is already present. It's just you can't fucking.
But I think it's good. I think it's good that you can't test it, because I think that the testing just does. At the end of the day, it probably doesn't really matter that much.
Well, I think it's one of those.
I don't know. I mean, there's been
right, and I think I guess I would argue.
But it's like if everybody has A/B testing tools, then does it just end up kind of canceling out because of convergences and stuff like that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's less about saying. I think it's basically the question of if you show X number of icons to people or X number of capsule arts to people, if all of them look interesting and good, like if all of them actually work really effectively, right, for grabbing attention, does that mean that someone doesn't have interest then in clicking through all of them? Like, is it the sort of problem where it's like they were only going to click on one, so now that all of them look interesting, it's still just like a random grab bag of who's going to get it? Or is it actually like an expansion of attention? Because I think that's mostly what it is people use it as a quality marker, right? Like, does the game grab my attention with the box art? It's a big first question.
Well, it's also,
it's
stuff that
good chance it's going to grab me in the game.
Yeah, stuff that we've seen all the time too is just how fickle attention and awareness are, and how much they defy your ability to like reason through and guess, like what's going to happen. And we just see it all the time in all the data, right? And we do experiments on, like, we've done experiments a lot historically, especially on Google Play, because it was so easy to A/B test. I mean, still is, but back in the day too. And that was the thing we talked about a long time ago, where we just like on Google Play for Crashlands, I think, we just yeeted the description off of the store, because we were like, does anyone even read this? Does this even matter that it's here, right? And we saw literally no impact of doing that. And then we also did an A/B test where we like swapped out icons.
The icons.
And we actually saw a lift of, I can't remember what it was, like 10%, 5%, something like that. Like enough of a lift where we're like, if you add that up, that adds up to a lot, right? Most experiments done were
but what this really means, though, is that like
difference.
A/B testing as a feature is a rich get richer feature, because like I remember reading about Mr. Beast, where they'll do thousands of iterations.
Well, they do thumbnail first,
right?
Does everything actually? Yeah.
And
even videos, but if they can't ahead of time figure out what a good thumbnail would be, just conceptually, this is a rule of thumb for YouTubers, right? Is that you don't make a video.
Yeah, this is also why Mr.
But
Beast content is soulless, right?
That's what I'm saying is like once A/B testing comes into the mix, then if you can pay a team of people whose only job is to just keep generating thumbnails and images and whatever, and just keep testing them over and over and over again to get another 1% here, 2% there, and they just keep doing that thousands and thousands of times, then it just kind of converges everything into the, everything is clickbait. Everything has a fucking red circle with an arrow on it.
Yeah.
Everything just follows the same.
Well, I think that's a
trends.
That's a can be true, but that's basically taking kind of a slippery slope argument. And
well, it's just what's actually happening, right? Because like people like us, we don't have a team of 1,000 people to constantly generate thumbnails. Like we
also wouldn't, because we're not interested, right? But we
because we have 500 subscribers and they have millions, right? So what I'm saying is like if you it turns it into a more of a mechanistic machine, like just keep iterating on the thing, and it doesn't really matter what the artistic intent is behind the thing. You just keep generating new concepts and keep testing them.
I think all that
then
stuff
you suck up all the attention.
Can be true. I just don't think it has to. I don't think the presence of being able to do it or the desire to like test, because to me, like, I don't think you have to take artistic vision out if you have theories you want to test, right? As in like we can make 3 different icons that we think are all good and meet our artistic vision, right? And then we want to know, does one of these like surprisingly perform better than another one, right? And that's just good practice to find out. So like, as in, you don't have to destroy the artistic intent in order to also get the benefits of finding something that appeals to people better than something else.
I think
but in a vacuum, but we're not in a vacuum, right? Because we're doing it for the algorithm, right? Like we change those things to try to drive more clicks, and as we drive more clicks, then our game gets surfaced more, right? But there's a zero-sum game for whose icon even gets seen to begin with, and it's all about those engagement metrics. And so what I'm saying is like, because it's a zero-sum game, then whichever organizations have teams of people who can just constantly A/B test and constantly generate clickbait and whatever else, they then start to crowd out other people who don't have those same types of resources. Right?
Yeah, well, I think that's particularly true on something like YouTube, where there's no barrier to the content volume, right? Because I think, and also where there aren't very many discovery mechanisms versus something like Steam, right? Where even if that is true, like if people started doing that kind of A/B testing on Steam, that wouldn't fundamentally change. I don't think that would fundamentally change what's going on there, because there's less.
Games take longer to make, so
there's so many fewer of them, right?
I'm just saying, I'm okay with not having A/B testing because I don't want to deal with it. Having that just be a constant, like, oh yeah, we could always be squeezing another % or 2 if we just keep grinding away.
Yeah, but again, like we don't care about a 1 to 2% difference. Like we're not going to iterate on that, even if we could measure it. The things that we are looking for, that is also why we've done these tests historically, was to ask, like, because it's the same reason you add another language to a game, right? Because adding a language to a game, if it's a relatively popular language, is going to, in theory, boost your game sales by anywhere from like 3% to 15%, depending on the language and all this other stuff, right? But as you incrementally add more languages, the proportional impact of adding that language goes down and down and down and down, right? And similarly with like Steam tags that we talked a lot about, right? It's like, we can, every time we tweak Steam tags, we potentially dramatically change how often we're showing up and to whom we're showing up, right? But most changes have a very small impact. And so the idea for all of these things is that if you have an easy way to get access to that information, then you get to choose when you stop doing the experiments, right? At a threshold.
I think I prefer to be able to do it a couple of times. You know what I mean? Just oftentimes, even just to see, or to confirm, or to like, especially when it comes to like some of these splits where you're like, is it better to have it, like this, or like just zoomed in a bit more, or like a little bit more of this? You're still using the same stuff. It's just from like cropping or whatever else that you're managing. I would always prefer to be able to get that little last bit out of it, to know that I'm getting everything out of it. But it is interesting because like we won't be able to tell exactly what this does for us. We just can't tell. You know what I mean? There's no way to tell.
Importantly, it looks fucking sick.
It looks sick, so I feel like it's gonna do some stuff. But like,
we like it.
Who knows? Who knows?
But this is actually interesting to go back to the earlier part of the discussion. We've talked a lot in the episodes about How Many Dudes, about the releasing the demo, and about how so much of that idea was to remove ourselves as the gatekeeper so that other people can make content for us, right? And at that time, we were thinking about that mostly in terms of just visibility on the game. Then that was the idea, right? But we didn't, at the time, at least I was thinking, I don't remember having conversations about the idea that by doing that, we also get a new opportunity, which is to see how those people try to market their content that they make about How Many Dudes, right? And then we get to see the outcomes of those attempts, right? But that only works if there's a lot of content, and we were lucky and there was, right? So that we could go to so the info that Sam was talking about is that we would go to each person's channel when they made a video about How Many Dudes, and we would see how well it performed compared to their other videos, right? And then we would look at we basically then pull out the thumbnails that they were using and like how they describe the game, that kind of stuff. We pulled all of that out for the videos that outperformed other videos within the same channel to see what the patterns were, right? And that was all stuff that we didn't have to run, like, hey, we're going to do A/B tests. Because the other thing about A/B tests is that if you don't have an audience, it doesn't matter. You can't do it, right?
Yeah.
And so we had no way, and honestly, right now have no way either because traffic is low because we haven't launched yet, right? So we actually don't have a way to meaningfully test anyway. We can't do it.
Yeah.
But that was a cool feature that we got out of that, was the ability to see like what looks like it's resonating with people, which is of course still a guess because there could be 1,000 other reasons why it doesn't surface, and there's not that much of it still, so it's just a guess, right?
But, well, and importantly, it's all contextual, and until you can A/B test on the platform in which the thing is happening,
and that's the other big thing. Yeah.
There's always a gap, and like this is the funny one. It's like you could put up Reddit posts, right? To do like you could do A/B tests manually by essentially putting on ads. The problem is that like those are ads showing up on certain platforms, and so one of the things I think is interesting is this idea. I think I saw it in Zakowski's recent blog about like Q1 games on Steam, which is basically like Nintendo looking things don't tend to do crazy well on Steam.
Yeah, so surprised.
Yeah. But again, you can A/B test if you're A/B testing on like Reddit, which you're going to be hitting like a much broader audience, unless you're like very specific, being like it's PC gaming, and seeing how well it does there. You end up with you're measuring just a different audience pool than what your actual audience is.
It would be the same as if you did A/B testing on Google Play, on the Google Play version of your game, to like decide, this box art is better, right? And then you went back to Steam and you're like, okay, I'm going to replace it over here. That might work.
It's like,
but maybe not.
This is it's the same idea here, which is like we saw these YouTube thumbnails did well, but we didn't just copy we didn't just literally take the YouTube thumbnail and then put it on. You know what I mean? We didn't just say that is better. It was just like, okay, conceptually, what's happening here? How do we translate that in a way that feels like it best fits, all the stores we're going to be on, and then kind of go from there. I will say that having LudoKit, which is a shameless plug again, if you haven't tried to get in on it or whatever else, go to ludokit.com. This is our tool we're making for self-publishing everything on all the damn stores, because one of the things that the bittersweet moment of getting great new box art is that you have to go put it everywhere, and oh my god,
there's so many places to put it,
dozens and dozens of different ways to crop it and move things around.
And LudoKit made it very easy. So I actually had a very good time. It wasn't like a bittersweet moment, just putting it all back together in Steam and then porting it over, getting it all uploaded. It's not a big deal, So
I'm so pumped to get this thing into people's hands. Still quite a bit of time left before that happens, before it actually becomes more publicly available. But every day we're using it for all kinds of stuff. So our last thing to talk about for this episode, let's talk about trademarks. And part is because we've been talking about it internally about getting a How Many Dudes trademark, which we'll talk about why.
And we do have trademarks
also we have
on
a question.
Levelhead and Crashlands, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. But also we got a question through podcast.bscotch.net about trademarks, which is pretty timely. So the question comes from HaoteeHatooie.
HaoteeHatooie.
Very common name. So I don't know why I mispronounced it.
Get it together.
It's very normal.
Read.
Do you trademark your game names? After figuring out a name for my game and checking that there was no one currently using it, I registered the website with a couple of domain endings and forgot about it. A year later, there are 10 distinct search results, at least 8 songs by different artists, an ebook, and a tattoo. I'm guessing many or most of these are AI slop. None of them are games, so legally I should be fine. But I'm not sure if and how I should react to this. So, all right, I love this shit. All right. So, trademarks.
Do we do them?
Why do we do them? Yeah. Why do you get one, and what does it do? I think a lot of people kind of, in their mind, have a blurry distinction between trademarks and copyrights. So just to kind of quickly distinguish the two. So copyright protection is somebody can't just make a copy of the thing that you made. So if you write a book,
literally copy paste.
Yeah. If you write a book, somebody can't take all the words from that book, rebind them in their own cover, and then publish it themselves. That's copyright infringement. And a lot of the arguments about like AI models and whether AI produced content is copyrightable and blah, 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 comes down to the fact that AI stole that shit to begin with. Like AI had to violate copyright in order to train. And then what it produces is also not produced by a person or a legal entity. It's like a machine spit it out. So there's a lot of gray area there.
Actually, at this point, it's at least so far they're having a few precedents set, and they all have said no. Anything coming out of AI is not copyrighted.
Yeah, that's what you would assume. So I'm glad that it's landing that way.
Yep.
So in the case of something that we've run into recently is probably one person in Vietnam made a clone of How Many Dudes called How Many Guys and put it up on Google Play. And it is not called How Many Dudes, and it is not a one-to-one clone of the mechanics of the game. It's had some changes made to it.
It is a separately made thing.
Yeah. So it does not violate copyright except for a few specific things where they took some sound effects from How Many Dudes and just used those.
Yeah, because it's all their own art, and I guess AI art and all that good, but it's all their own art that's their own application, all that kind of stuff. And so if they hadn't taken any of our sounds, it would have been squarely outside the realm of copyright.
Yeah. And so, so we're petitioning Google to say like, hey, these people have violated our copyright. They've taken our assets. Google has been not responsive to this.
They can't seem to look at sounds, you know what I mean? As like they can't be
they keep telling us to send screenshots of the copyright violation. We're like, it's audio. I don't know what
to do for you. So that's feels like barking up a dead tree at this point.
And they even have like, our Steam page, we had like synergy tactics mayhem, absurd challenges, and then like they took those exact phrases and put those in. So there are a few, and that's such a short phrase that's probably not a copyright kind of a thing. So our recourse to actually, if we wanted to do something about this game, because there's a confusion problem where there are some people coming into that game talking about how, I saw Moist Critical play this on his YouTube channel. I'm really disappointed that the developers decided to make such a crappy ad-filled mobile version of it. And it's like, that's not ours, right? And this is where Trademark comes in. So Trademark, the idea behind a trademark is, there's like a fly that just keeps like flying around. I can't get it out of here. So the idea behind trademark is it's supposed to be more of a consumer protection, where it's to prevent consumers from thinking they're purchasing something from one business or producer when actually what they're getting is a knockoff version of that thing. And so trademark is more about, it's like in the case of this question where they're like, like somebody got a tattoo with this on it. There's a song. Trademark is more domain specific. So it's like we're gonna be going for trademarking How Many Dudes as a video game.
There's literally when you do an application, you say like what the categories are.
Like what is this product? And then the question about whether a trademark has been violated comes down to, would a consumer be confused? Like, is this close enough to the source that it's creating confusion? And if so, then it's a trademark violation. So we would have a very obvious and strong trademark case against How Many Guys.
And importantly, the pathway for getting things removed with trademark versus with copyright is very different. So on like Google Play or whatever else, it's like there are literally two different forms for it. I think it's a much easier sort of road on the trademark side, because then it is just saying like, here's these two things. This is clear. Like in this case, clearly there's literally people in the comments and the reviews being like, I thought this was this other thing, or I think it is literally this other thing.
Yeah, it obviously is creating confusion, and the fact that they like copied the color palette of the arena. They used like a spray painted like red circle to represent the arena. They used the same type of smear frames. The dudes all have 3 frames. One of them is a downed frame with the butt up in the air. Like they copied everything that they could in terms of, or they imitated everything that they could, right? Literally in order to create confusion and make people think that it's how many dudes. So that's like kind of an easy case there. There's that question though about in this question about like, I figured out a name for my game and I want to trademark it. Trademarks are different from something like a patent. Like you always hear about patent trolls where somebody's like, I came up with this idea, I made the schematics, blah blah blah, I got it patented, and now I'm just going to sit on the patent. I'm not going to actually make the thing, and I'm just going to watch out for anybody who tries to make something that might violate my patent, and I'm just going to sue them for violating my patent and collect royalties. So I don't have to actually produce a product. I own a patent, and I'm just going to make money off the patent, right? This is a big problem in the U.S. Of patent trolls, which are organizations that just buy patents and then sue people. They don't actually make anything. They just sue people. Trademarks,
and even those that do make
like
stuff, like still use them very aggressively.
They will still, yeah. So trademarks don't quite work like that because again, it's all about just is there confusion about it, right?
In the market,
and so that in the market, which means like if you trademark something that doesn't yet exist, you can still file that trademark, but under sort of like an intent to produce kind of a thing. You're like, I'm going to be making this thing, but if you haven't made it and you can't demonstrate that you're going to make the thing, and somebody else comes in and starts making it, then you might actually just lose the case.
Lose your trademark.
Yeah. And you might lose the trademark because if you're saying like, oh, well, consumers are confused about what this product is, and they were going to this other person's product thinking it was mine, and the court would be like, yeah, but you don't have one and you never did. So like, how could anybody be confused, right? So you can't just like trademark something because you have an idea and then just
do anything with
take advantage of that fact.
Yeah, something has to exist.
And then the other, and then kind of the other flip side of trademarks is the generic problem, which is it's probably not really going to be like an issue in games, but that's the thing that where like if your trademark becomes so widely used that it becomes a generic term. So somebody says like, hey, can you give me a Kleenex?
I feel like you almost had this with Nintendo for a while there, because like parents would call every console a Nintendo.
Oh, I mean,
or every game, everything
every game is
play
Mario.
games on. They still some of it does it.
Yeah. Everything is a Nintendo, right? And so that can also be a problem, and it's like suffering from your own success, where like the thing that you made becomes so widespread that it no longer has a specific meaning. And like I always think about,
but again, that's based on
this
market usage, because that's about consumers doing it, right? Because if consumers are starting to to use it generically, that's what causes that to happen.
Yeah, and so there's this weird thing that happens then, where like you will have to demonstrate, like let's say you do this genericide happens to your trademark. Everybody's using the word that you made up, but just to talk generically about both your product and all of your competitors'
whole category
products, right?
Yeah.
So if you then go to sue one of your competitors, then the court can basically say like, well, yeah, you did have the trademark and you do have the trademark, but like it doesn't really matter anymore because the word has just entered the common vernacular and you don't own it anymore. So you have to protect yourself in that case. And so like Xerox did this, where because people would just say, hey, can you Xerox this? Which just means can you make some copies? Can you like make copies of this? We don't care who the manufacturer is of the copy machine that you're going to use to make the copies, but just go Xerox.
Xeroxing is the verb.
Yeah. And so Xerox took out a bunch of ads for quite a while. They just took out ads in magazines that would literally just say like, you can only Xerox something on a Xerox machine. Like just to basically create a paper trail to demonstrate that they were fighting against
they're trying
their
to
word being used. Yeah, so that way, if they did sue somebody for a trademark issue, they would have some kind of a like a protection paper trail there.
Yeah, I think generally it's been the case that we haven't had to worry. We haven't had to enforce trademark stuff almost at all with Crashlands Levelhead.
We did,
like except. Okay.
We did with original Crashlands. That was how we got stuff because at that time we had a lot of Amazon clones and stuff, or not clones, literally just rips.
But those were literal rips, which is all would also technically fall into.
Yeah, and we actually also couldn't get Amazon to respond until we used a trademark.
Yes,
to do it.
I think that's basically what it is. It's like I think if you have a game that's going to be that seems like it, so you put it on Steam, you're getting a good number of wish lists. It probably is wise to do a trademark application for it, because it allows you to then take down these things, the literal clones that pop, not clones, the literal copies that pop up on some of these other storefronts, you can take down. And then ones that start where I think people use the term clone, I think, to like a little too closely in some of these regards. I think there's, in the case of like the How Many Guys trademark infringing clone of How Many Dudes, they, again, mechanically the game is different, right? It's just that it's so close just in terms of like how it presents and everything like that, the name of it, everything like that it does cause confusion, right?
Which is the goal.
Which is the goal. And so that's like a different thing now. But clones generally are just like, are not a problem. It's like they're just...
Yeah, if somebody takes the same, because we now call things a first-person shooter, but there was a first one.
Yep.
And somebody copied that, and then that's how genres are born through cloning and
and this, like, the Vampire Survivors is like the most recent example of this, right? Where it's like that literally was not a thing really at all before, and then now there's just a whole genre of it, and you could call them clones if you want, but like it's just a genre at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is fine because nobody's confused when they see Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. They're like, is this Vampire Survivors? I've been hearing about Vampire Survivors.
I think that's kind of the mark. It's like, would a reasonable person be confused? And then that's to be like kind of the ethics point, which is like, if the answer is just yes, then.
But importantly too, kind of to your point about like getting the stores to do something about it. A trademark is a demonstration that you have legal resources and that you've taken steps to protect yourself, which is more why they respond to it, because it means you probably have a lawyer, right? If you just like open up your diary and write a page, that's copyrighted. Like just by creating something, you own the copyright for that thing. You may not have registered the copyright. You haven't necessarily created a legal paper trail that's like a strong proof that you created it.
It's hard to defend, but you do have it. Right.
Yeah, yeah. But just by the nature of making something, you own the copyright for that thing.
And that's in the United States.
So
that differs by country. And some countries do have to register it to have the copyright. But
and so copyright is this weird thing where like it's innate in the stuff that you make, but then for somebody to violate the copyright, they have to copy it. They have to literally copy it. And there's other kind of weird like gray areas like like a phone book is a bunch of, it's a list of names that already existed, right? So like they took your name and put it in the phone book, which they didn't come up with the name, so they did copy the name from somewhere, but then the organization of the names is copyrightable because they put them together in this kind of novel way.
Yeah,
right?
so you could legally get all of the information out of a phone book, right? Because none of that is copyrightable. The information itself isn't. You could take all of it out and make your own phone book using all the info you stole out of there. And
organize it differently, whatever.
Yeah, as long as you reorganize it, fully legal. But it's also for like non-trivial organizations, right? Something just being alphabetical is a trivial organization, right? So
kind of whatever.
So if you did it alphabetical again, that's fine, right? But so actually for something like a phone book, that's now moving into a space where like that whole entity is kind of not very copyrightable, except for probably like the ads and stuff and like the things that are a little bespoke about it.
Certain aspects of it will be,
but most of it actually won't be at all.
Yeah, so there, but that trademark is the thing that kind of like it puts you into a sort of a different camp of people now being willing to take your claims more seriously and respond to that kind of thing.
Because also typically bother with them until close to launch, because it just is no one's going to care about your game until after it's out, typically. Or in the case of How Many Dudes, because it did have enough success with the demo, then it did have enough proof in the market that obviously people are there's some people making
Well,
stuff.
it's
But, like,
it's about scams, right? Like if your game has to reach a level of traction that somebody else will see it and they'll go, I bet I can make a little bit of money if
I
I
can make a scam with this.
try to trick people into thinking. Yeah, but if your game isn't gaining any traction and isn't building an audience, then nobody's going to bother to rip it off, and then having a trademark doesn't do anything, because the whole point of the trademark is to protect against that, right? So it's kind of a,
it does make for a timing problem, right? Because if you're trying to do
there's no real way to know, but
yeah, if you're trying to do a trademark application, you have to be able to have all this evidence, right? That like you have a mark, because just call it a mark, right? That you have a mark that you're using for trade, right? And that it's not like there's all this evidence you have to gather to basically try to prove to, and at least in the U.S., to the U.S. government, that there is. I do have a mark. It is out in the market.
A unique thing here.
Yeah, it's a unique thing, and it lives in this category that I said it lives in, and like all this kind of stuff. You have to be able to provide all that evidence, right? And so there's the timing problem here, which is, in order for you to have all the info, you already have to be in the market. So you can't sort of preemptively trademark something, and most of the time in a very meaningful way,
until
it's like
kind of close to.
Yeah, until it's already kind of a problem. Right. And then at that point, it takes a while, because it's a bureaucratic process done by actual people, because, it's this very constrained thing where people have to look at the evidence, and there's back and forth with lawyers, and it's expensive and all this kind of stuff. And it can't even happen until you can put together enough evidence that it needs to. And so there's another question here
you've got a product.
Yeah. Is then what do you do before that happens? Right. And I believe, not a lawyer, so, but I believe that TM trademark, right? You can just put on anything, because that's not a real legal claim, if that makes sense. That's a signaling of intent.
Yep.
Right. Because you can use something as a trademark without it being a government recognized registered
being
trademark.
A registered trademark, which is the same as like everything's copyrighted. Not everything is a registered copyright.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And because a trademark, you can still actually, even if it's not registered, you can potentially defend, right? It's harder, because you don't already have the sort of pre-authorization, basically, that like, this is mine. So now when you go to court, you have to prove that this is really yours. Like, you basically have to kind of do all the stuff that you would have had to do previously, but now much more expensively, right? But it's
the common law of marriage versus marriage. It's like you could sort of post hoc, after the fact, you can kind of go back and be like, I'm going to prove it through all these, gather tons of evidence to prove it. But it's hard.
So the thing you can do is you can, on things that you're like, I want to signal that this is a trademark, and my intent to, or the fact that I'm already in the process of getting it registered, you can just slap a TM on things, right? Be like, again, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't prevent you from doing anything, but it signals that maybe people should be a little cautious before they try to steal your shit.
It says I'm gonna be registering this, probably, so like,
you can't use that when you like go to the store and you're like, hey, this thing's violating my trademark, and they look at it and they're like, well,
you don't
have a registered trademark, so that's not worth our time to try and investigate, right?
So I hope that answers questions about trademarks. It's at the end of the day, it's like Adam was saying, it's expensive, it's time consuming, and it really only protects you if you've got something that people are trying to steal, basically, right?
Well, I guess similarly,
people are trying to steal your customers.
It can already be helpful to have one too, for that same kind of reason, or I guess a parallel reason, which is that if you've already done that and successfully gotten the government to say, this trademark is yours, we agree, right? If you've already gone through that effort, then when you're turning around, it's like, go talk to a publisher, right? Who wants your title in some way, they're going to have a lot more confidence in taking on your title.
Competence.
If you also can bring with it this sort of legal backing that says, hey, we own this thing, we own the trademark for this thing, and that also means that because we have it, it's very unlikely that somebody else will come along later and be like, actually, this game is violating my trademark, give me 50% of all proceeds, right? Because people can do that. People could come to you and say, hey, like if this game that was on Google Play was successful and made a lot of money, then we could turn around and say they did that because they tricked people into thinking that it was our game, Therefore, we are entitled to most of its revenue or whatever.
Their
Right?
money.
That doesn't mean we would win that court case, but that is a thing that we could do. And so you already having a trademark when you're dealing with other publishers and other legal entities can basically help them have confidence that that kind of thing isn't going to happen to you, right? So you get some benefits there too.
Right. Yeah. So if you're real serious about it, it can be a good idea, to do. So yeah. So I hope that helps. So that's all the time we have for this week's episode. We'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa DaCosta, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate, and links to the archives. And if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, pick up the demo for How Many Dudes, give it a play, and otherwise, wishlist it and get ready for the July 30th launch on Steam, Google Play, and the App Store. So thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.